What would you do if you were to find out your home was haunted? Would you call a priest to bless your home? Maybe light some sage to help remove the spirits from your home? Or would you do what Lisa and her family did and welcome the spirits and allow them to reside in your home with you? Hey, mi casa, su casa. Hello, fellow sinners, and welcome. My name is Anissa, and I have a serious, unhealthy obsession with anything paranormal, supernatural, weird, etc. If you're into that sort of stuff, feel free to enter my dark and strange little world. Today's story is based off of a book I read titled On Haunted Ground by Lisa Rogers, and it is the true accounts of Lisa and her family's experience with living with ghosts. Yes, you heard me correctly. Living with ghosts. So I'm going to share with you some of the accounts and some of the experiences that this family went through. Now, Lisa and her family, her husband Wes, and their children Keisha and Troy, they all moved into their very first home in the year 1984. They were going to physically move this home onto a plot of land that was gifted to them by Lisa's in-laws, her mother-in-law and her father-in-law. Wish I had in-laws like that. So they gifted them this 10-acre plot of land. And now this home that they moved onto this plot of land, what you also need to know is that it was very close to a cemetery. Now, what you need to know about Lisa and her daughter Keisha is that they always had some sort of a gift or an ability to sense when there was a spirit around them. Now, they by no means claim to be psychic or anything like that. And almost immediately upon moving in, Lisa started getting a sense that they weren't alone. However, this presence didn't feel evil to her. It didn't feel as if it was threatening or that they were in any sort of danger by any means. And for some reason, she had this feeling that it was possibly an older lady or older woman that was in this home with them. And soon enough, Lisa began to see a green light, almost like an orb. Her and her husband Wes would be in bed, getting ready to go to sleep, and in the corner of the room, they would see this green light or this green orb, and her husband even gets up and tries to find out where the source of this light is coming from, but he was unsuccessful. He couldn't find anything, and so Lisa just, deep inside, she already knew this is a spirit. Lisa admitted to her husband, or even casually mentions, "Oh, it's just the ghost, like leave it alone." But Lisa's husband Wes refused to believe that this was a spirit. He didn't believe in this sort of thing. One night, her daughter Keisha's friend comes over and spends the night. So they have a sleepover, and then the next morning, Lisa is surprised to find her daughter and her friend sleeping in the living room. So she approaches them and asks, "Why aren't you guys in the bedroom? What happened? Why'd you guys end up in the living room?" And Keisha, her daughter, just casually says, "Oh, she's scared of our green ghost." And Lisa then has this moment of realization of, wait, she sees it too? And she acknowledges that this is a ghost? So she kind of lets it go, but then later she speaks to her daughter, and her daughter says, "Yeah, it's the ghost, and I see it in my room sometimes too." Now, the spirit of the older woman would always appear as a green light or green orb to them. However, one day, Keisha and Lisa both saw an actual apparition of this older woman standing in the hallway, looking at a picture up on the wall. Now, Keisha saw this apparition first. However, she never mentioned to anyone because she was kind of accustomed or used to already the strangeness and everything. And she kind of just said, "Oh, that's her. So cool." However, then Lisa, Keisha's mom, saw her and strangely saw her in that same hallway looking at the same picture up on the wall. She said it was an old lady, fairly short, with a green dress and white hair. Now, for some reason, both Keisha and Lisa had a feeling that this was a way of the spirit saying goodbye. And sure enough, after that apparition, she was never seen again. Even though they never saw the spirit of the old woman again, Lisa said that after this spirit of this older woman left, she felt so many more presences show up inside her home. So now it wasn't only one spirit, but multiple. However, again, she said she never felt threatened or in danger, or she never felt that any of these spirits were evil. These other spirits, or at least one of these other spirits, were even a bit helpful around the house. Yes, you heard me correct, because some of the plants that Lisa had, she would find them watered, and then she would ask her husband and her kids who had watered the plants, and they would all say, "Wasn't us." I wish I had a ghost that helpful. One of these spirits was believed to be a male spirit by both Keisha and Lisa. This spirit seemed to be a little bit on the crankier side, or at least to be a bit of a jokester or trickster, because he would even throw stuff across the room. And Keisha had this little red Corvette toy. Little red Corvette. So, sorry. The toy would just fly across the room, and it would even come very close to hitting Keisha. And also, Lisa would sometimes find all the cabinet doors open, and she would blame the kids sometimes, or even her husband, and, you know, kind of complain to them, like, why do you guys always leave the cabinet doors open? Why can't you just close them? It's not that difficult. However, one day when the whole family was outside, Lisa came inside, grabbed some stuff, went back outside, and then came back inside, and all the cabinet doors were open. And that's when she realized, oh, it wasn't my husband or kids, it was our friendly neighborhood ghost. And this would happen sometimes when she was alone or when the family was all outside, so she knew it couldn't be any of them. Now, the family eventually decided they were going to try to develop or have their own business, so they rented a small office in a building, and Lisa immediately felt a presence yet again. However, this presence, she did say, it didn't feel evil necessarily, but it didn't necessarily feel nice. So one day, Lisa was alone cleaning up when the lights suddenly turned off and then back on again. She then saw a shadow standing in the hallway. Now she thought maybe it's my husband that came to help, so she walked over to it, and when she walked through the corridor and into the room, no one was there. She looked down through a window and noticed that her husband Wes's truck wasn't there. Naturally feeling frightened, Lisa decides, I'm going outside and I'm going to wait for my husband outside of the building, because she was too afraid to go back inside on her own. Now, running a business of their own proved to be a lot more challenging than they thought, and they would find themselves often working very long hours of the day. So they eventually built this little kind of playroom for their kids in the attic of the office. And the kids, Keisha and Troy, would somehow, some way end up locked in the attic at times. And for the longest time, they assumed this was their dad playing some sort of joke on them, or him trying to leave them down there so they wouldn't bother him. But they eventually discuss or speak of this as a family. When they're having a conversation, and the dad says, that was never me, what are you talking about? And the kids, Keisha and Troy, even claimed that when they would play in the attic, they would be chased around by a spool table. Now I looked this up, and I'm going to insert a picture here. That's a big tape. How does that, I guess it would roll. So if they'd run to one side of the room, the spool table would roll that way. And then if they'd run to the other side, the spool table would roll the other way. How are these kids not scared? Lisa and her husband Wes eventually also decide, you know what, being away from home so much at this office, we never have a chance to be at home, in our actual home as a family. So they then decide, we should build an office in the back of our home. I mean, remember, they have this 10-acre land. There's sufficient space. So the family now works in this little office or workspace from home in the back. It's kind of a separate building. Think of it as a garage behind the home, but it's their office. And the hauntings and all these strange occurrences would continue, and the family simply grew accustomed to it because, again, both Lisa and Keisha, actually, they acknowledged that there was a presence or a ghost in their home, but they never felt threatened by it, or they never felt it was evil. So they simply decided to live with the ghost and to welcome it. It's just acknowledging that, hey, there's a ghost living in my house, and they were cool with it. Now, some of the other things that the spirit or ghost would do is they would turn the lights on and off. They would close and open doors. Keisha, Lisa's daughter, also mentioned that she felt there was a spirit of a young Indian boy in the home. Now, this spirit of the young Indian boy didn't seem to be a trickster or evil or any anything like that. On the contrary, if anything, Keisha said that he seemed to be a little bit scared and shy and that he would just kind of follow her around. So it was just kind of like her little ghost friend. When Keisha brought up this spirit of a young boy that would follow her around, or her little ghost friend, to her dad, he said, no, you guys, like, that's enough. Let's stop right there. And he even went as far to say, okay, I'm going to ask this so-called spirit to do something for us if it's really here. So the dad then proceeds to ask it questions, and the ghost would answer by flickering the lights once for yes and 2 for no. The way Lisa describes it is that they wouldn't completely turn off and on, but that the lights would dim and then kind of come back on. So they dim out and then come back on. Now, another one of the spirits was the imitator spirit. Now, I've heard of spirits that can imitate people's voices, but I've heard those are evil. So I was like, oh, that has to be a bad one. That has to be scary. But I guess not, because they were cool with living with this spirit too. So this spirit would call all of the family's members' names out loud in all of their voices. So it would, sometimes they'd hear the voice of Keisha call someone's name out. Sometimes the voice of her brother Troy. Sometimes of Lisa, the mom, or Wes, the dad. So all of the voices. So they would all be running around, and they said it was even a little bit funny because they'd all go out like, huh? Who called me? What'd you want? Or what do you want, mom? What do you want, dad? And only to find that everyone say, I didn't call you. So they called it the imitator spirit. Now, Troy, Lisa's son, his encounter was a little more scary. So Troy would even see his mom. Okay, see his mom. So apparently the spirit could make itself seem or look like Lisa. So Troy would see his mom come into his room at night. She'd pull the covers up, and when asked, she would say she was just checking on him. So if Troy said, Mom, what are you doing? She'd say, oh, I'm just checking on you. Go back to sleep. Now, Lisa claims she hadn't been inside Troy's room to check on him in years because he was a bit on the older side already. So she hadn't done that in a fairly long time. I mean, he was pretty much a teenager now. Can you imagine your son telling you, oh yeah, the spirit that looks like you came into my room, pulled the covers up? How are they not scared? Now, Lisa starts researching more about spirits, right? Because she hadn't really shared all these experiences with anyone because she was too afraid that people would call her crazy. But she started kind of researching on her own. And she decides to purchase some EVP equipment to try and get some solid proof of the ghosts or spirits in her home. EVP is kind of a bit of a recording device where you can ask questions and then you can play it back later, because it's said that it can pick up frequencies that aren't audible to the human ear. So, she'd sit in a room or sit in her home, ask questions, and then go back and replay it to see if it caught anything. The first several times nothing happened. She did this over and over for quite a while with no luck, until Lisa ended up capturing a male raspy voice saying, let me try to do a male raspy voice. I'm coming in. I'm coming up. Was that raspy? Lisa played this recording for her family. She was excited. She thought, this is it. I have legit proof that there are spirits in my home. However, the rest of the family couldn't really make anything out. And her son Troy even exclaimed, you're probably just hearing something because you want to hear something. So Lisa felt a little bit disappointed. However, she didn't give up there. She persevered. She tried again. So she sat down in the middle of the hallway, and she began to ask questions again and recording with her little EVP device. And after a few questions, she asked, what is your name? When she was physically sitting there doing this, she didn't hear any responses. It wasn't until later, when she played this EVP recording back, that she heard footsteps. And she was alone when she did this. So she knew it couldn't have been anybody because she's alone. So she hears footsteps, and then she hears a voice, a male voice, say, I'm Paul. He's Paul. again, she played this for the family, hoping, okay, I really feel I got something, right? So she plays it for the family, but she didn't tell them what she heard. She wanted them to see if they made anything out on their own. Now, everyone heard it except that her husband, Wes, claimed that he heard it said grandpa. So this was kind of a bit of a breaking point, because this is when Lisa's husband, Wes, was sort of like, whoa, there's no way. You actually recorded that in our home. So he became a little more intrigued with all of this whole spirit stuff. So Lisa convinces him to accompany her to a seminar, a ghost seminar. And so they attend this seminar / retreat at the Crescent Hotel. Now, at this retreat / seminar, Lisa and Wes learned how to meditate, and they learned about energies and how, the existence of that everyone has an energy, and you can pick up on energies even if they no longer have a physical body, and so on. So Lisa was a bit concerned. She thought, oh my goodness, my husband is going to think all these people are cuckoo. He already thinks I'm cuckoo. Like, this isn't going to work. But surprisingly, Wes went in with a bit of an open mind, however, still skeptical as usual. And during one of the exercises, one of the instructors asked Wes to stand up and volunteer for one of the exercises, because he wanted him to feel this so-called energy firsthand. So he asked Wes to stand up, and Wes stood at one side of the room and asked him, okay, Wes, close your eyes. So Wes closes his eyes, and the instructor stands in front of him, but more than 6 feet away from Wes. So Wes is on this side and the instructor is on this side. And the instructor starts motioning like he's pushing against Wes and tells him, do you feel anything? And Wes said, yeah, you're pushing against my right arm, or something like that. And then the instructor says, open your eyes. Wes opens his eyes and he sees that the instructor is 6 feet away from him, and no one's behind him, no one's near him. And he's just kind of standing there in shock, like, how did I feel that? What? And that's when they were trying to explain to him, that's what we mean by energies. So then they continue at this seminar / retreat. I blinked out. And they started kind of walking around the Crescent Hotel, and Lisa had her little camera, and they encouraged her to take pictures to see if she caught orbs or anything like that. And at one particular location at this hotel, it was actually Wes that felt a cold spot come over him. So it's almost as if this meditation and all these exercises they were doing kind of opened up his ability to sense things a little bit more, or to be more open to sensing things. So he tells his wife, Lisa, I'm feeling a cold spot. And Lisa says, hold on, I'm going to take a picture. So she takes the picture, and later on, when reviewing the footage or the film, they find that there appeared to be a little boy standing next to Wes. Now, after this seminar retreat, Wes's opinion or perspective on ghosts and spirits changed a bit. He was a little bit more open-minded now. He seemed to be a little more accepting, or at least a little more open-minded to the possibility that ghosts and spirits may exist. And they even continued to attend ghost seminars, ghost tours, etc. Now, Keisha and Troy eventually grow up. They leave their home, and Keisha says that some of these ghosts had followed her to her new home. Keisha said that at her new home, doors would continue to open and close, cabinets would all be found open, lights would be left on, and she would blame her now husband Steven. And then her husband Steven, he did purchase 2 shishi dogs, and if you don't know what these are, you may have seen them. I'll insert a picture here. But there's one that is said to welcome good spirits, and the other guards against evil spirits. So Steven, Keisha's now husband, placed 2 in their home, and one day when they went out and returned home, one of the dogs, the one that is said to guard against the evil spirits in particular, had moved across the hallway all the way to the other side. And now that Troy and Keisha were out of the home, Lisa still was curious, and she had always wanted to do some sort of investigation in her home. So she reached out to the Oklahoma Paranormal Research and Investigations team. Now, amongst the crew was a psychic who sensed the presence of several ghosts in Lisa's home, including that of a little boy and an older man. Now, this psychic spoke to Lisa and Wes and told them that she thought these spirits were from the cemetery. Remember, I told you their home that was close to a cemetery nearby. And she thought that Lisa and her family had opened some sort of door for as many spirits to come through by interacting with the ghosts. And they pretty much left a door open because they were pretty welcoming and they gave them the attention and interacted with them. And to this day, or at least when she wrote this book, Lisa said she still has spirits living with her as well as her daughter Keisha, and it's something they're just used to and they're okay with. They're perfectly fine with it. And she hopes that people out there who have had experiences know they're not alone, that there are multiple people out there who share the same experiences, that they're not crazy, etc. And she hopes that her experiences can help some people not feel so much fear, because there's a lot of fear around spirits and ghosts, etc. Would you guys be okay? Would you guys be cool with living a ghost, with having a ghost as your roommate pretty much? If they're not paying rent, I don't know. But you let me know down in the comments below. What do you think? I mean, they pretty much befriended all these spirits and they were totally fine. They were absolutely fine with living with them. They would interact with them. They would talk to them. Would you be all right with that? All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope to see you in a future video. And have a good night, gals and ghouls. Bye-bye.